The problem I'm talking about is I don't think there's a solid identity for the base form of Souls combat. When I say base form, I'm talking about the Souls combat that doesn't have the rally mechanic or the Sekiro parrying mechanic. And because all these games are increasing in pace, right? Dark Souls 3 is a lot faster than Dark Souls 1. It kind of ends up feeling like a lesser version of Bloodborne and Sekiro because they don't have the bells and whistles from those games. Because you think about it, whenever you're in a boss fight in Bloodborne and Sekiro, it feels like a choreographed dance. You're like, whoa, I'm moving with the boss. And they tailor those games to that experience. That's why in Bloodborne, you don't really need the shield. You have that wooden plank as a shield. What are you going to do with that? Instead, they give you a gun. They're like, all right, get back in there, buddy. And with the Sekiro stuff, you just have a sword. You just deflect the sword attacks, poof, 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 and you end. They have a dance feel to them. That's why increasing the pace in these games made sense because you could stay in the zone while increasing the pace. But in the regular Souls combat, you don't really have that sidestep or the Mikiri counter or the deflection in Sekiro. You have to roll every time, and rolling takes longer frames. So now when you roll and you have to take longer to get back into action, you feel like you've exited the combat. You've now entered into a defensive maneuver. But in Sekiro and Bloodborne, because the frames are so short, it doesn't feel like you've ever exited the combat. You're still in the tango, right? You're still going 1-2, 1-2. But in Dark Souls, when you have to roll and then you have to get up and then attack, I feel like it's catered more towards slower gameplay. And I'm not saying rolling is always bad, right? You look at the dancer fight in Dark Souls 3, oh my god, that one move, that animation where she's spinning around, and you're like, whoa, 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 I'm rolling with you. Wait, I thought we were enemies. What the hell? You want to get married or something? It feels pretty good rolling there, right? I don't know. I guess when I first entered the Souls sphere, I kind of had this impression that different Souls IPs represented different types of Souls experiences. Dark Souls would challenge your positioning and your combat strategy. It challenges you to fight as a soldier would, just using whatever you have at your disposal, fighting for your survival. Bloodborne challenges you by incentivizing you to play more aggressive. You know, it challenges your grit and your willingness to get in there, you know? And then Sekiro has that rhythm-like dance elements to it where you kind of have to recognize the pattern of the bosses and then attack when you can, testing your reaction time and pattern recognition. I think it would be cool if they created games based on these subgenres, because then they could tailor the experience to these difficulty types, where they could be like, let's make a new Sekiro-like game. How do we make that type of experience harder? How do we challenge them in a new way this time? We're all hoping for a Bloodborne sequel, right? It's never gonna happen, but we're still hoping. It'd be kind of fun because we'd get a lot of different varieties of the Souls genre. That's why I think Elden Ring would have been better if it was a little slower paced, because it doesn't have the rally mechanic, it doesn't have the parrying from Sekiro, so it kind of makes it feel like a lesser version of them, at least when it comes to combat. I mean, Elden Ring is still a masterpiece, don't get me wrong. You know, it has its own bells and whistles, the open world, torrent, right? You get horseback riding. I just think the rolling mechanic just goes along really well with a slower combat system. And don't give me that shit about slow games are easy. I've seen some of the Monster Hunter fights, okay? They're insane. Look, I get it. These subgenre categories are probably just an over-intellectualization of From Software just making games, right? I mean, it's definitely an over-intellectualization of it. It's like those Zelda theory channels or One Piece theory channels where Oda will mention one character's name 500 episodes later and they're like, oh shit, he thought 500 episodes in advance. Oh my god, Oda is the G. That's probably what I'm doing to FromSoft games right now, right? I'm like, oh, these subgenres, the parry timing and the freaking rally mechanics, the choreographed dance. FromSoft sitting there like, yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about, dude. Jeez. Take you guys long, huh? You know, FromSoft's really good at innovating on the Souls mechanics, so for all we know, they could make a whole new experience with the new game. And maybe at that point, I'll make a new video about how that's a different subcategory, right? I don't know, I really like the approach they have to making games. It's like they don't care to make it a business model. Obviously, they care about making money, right? Their business, at the end of the day, they gotta make money. But they're not willing to sacrifice on the art of the project. They want to make it a proper, full project and not have the business change the art of the project. You know, by including microtransactions or whatever. That's why you look at Sekiro and Bloodborne. These things don't really need a sequel. They're full on their own. They're complete packages. Maybe for Sekiro, you can make an argument about a sequel with that obscure-ass ending that you gotta go through 15 to 20 hoops just to get to, right? Maybe then there's an argument for a sequel. But even without that ending, Sekiro feels really complete. Sekiro, Bloodborne, even Dark Souls 1, they feel complete. They don't need an expansion. I mean, if they do it, you bet your sweet bippy I'd play the shit out of that, right? Look, I respect the hell out of their game dev approach, okay? But I'm still a Souls junkie, all right? I'm gonna play them all. If they made a sequel to Bloodborne, oh my god. I wouldn't even be living my life anymore. I'd be in Bloodborne. The character would be me. I know it sounds like I was hating on these games, but you gotta understand, I played each of these games 4 different times. Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 3, Demon Souls, Sekiro. I'm not saying Dark Souls 2 because that shit was ass and it doesn't count. FromSoft has a clean record. Leave them alone. Yo, what do you guys think, though? Do you think I'm hitting the mark here on this subcategory thing? These subgenres of the Souls format? I don't know. Or do you think maybe I'm just too locked into my room, thinking about dumbass shit all the time? Maybe I should leave my room, touch grass. Maybe that's what you're thinking. And I'd probably agree with you, you know? Hey, I think I'm right, okay? And I know you think I'm right. So just go and like this, all right? What are we doing here?